Would you look at Magnus Carlsen? Fresh dapper suit of goat hair on him. He's got the sharpened horns today, even combed the goatee. Started bleating in fact when he played pawn to d4 against Vladimir Fedoseev with the black pieces. Round 9, it's the Chess Olympiad. He's on time today and he received the Chess Goat Award yesterday. That's why he's honouring it today with his best look. Now we see d5 in response, knight f3, c5, and how about this? Move 3. The drama begins. Magnus goes c4, the most explosive move. We've got ourselves a pawn cube, or pube if you will. We love a portmanteau here on Epic Chess. Magnus has had his best brunch, a delicious selection of
mushrooms.
And in response we see takes on d4. We're not getting too hung up on opening theory. I'm tired this evening, went for a meal. Sorry, I meant to say we just want to keep the game moving, not get too hung up on details, and we now get some symmetry here. I drew some paint because of it, a la Yasser Ross. Now we see e4 on the board, driving back this knight. Magnus whooshes out this bishop, shoots a check at Fedoseev. He blocks the way like Bruce Lee in disguise, and now we see knight c3, covering the centre. The other knight covers the bishop. e5, however, kicks that pony. Now you can't cover it. So Magnus takes with check. We see queen recaptures, knight f5, and he's buzzing because the ladies leave the board here. We're into an end game. He's getting ready to grind like a grandma. Loves these kind of positions, the end game goat. Now g6 is the best move, but Fedoseev doesn't find it, plays the very natural knight c6. It's very subtle of course, but Magnus now gets time for this, threatening to shatter the pawn structure. No g6 anymore of course, and he wants to dominate d5. So will he take? Well, Fedoseev doesn't want to find out, hops boldly forth, hitting f2, wants to go to fork Vegas. So Magnus covers, and I tell you what, you can take the boy out of Norway, but you can't take Norway out the boy. Watch that king, watch how it slaloms down the board. Got its skis on, I tell ya. We get f6, a move that Hans Feingold hates. Drives back this bishop, now h5, and it's a really important move, because when this one comes, as it duly does, you've now given the knight a square, and it's just okay. You're just keeping the pawn structure intact. Now you can take simply. Rook recaptures, it's a bit offside. You bring one of these cannons to the centre. Small advantage for white. But Magnus, he instead goes bishop f2 immediately, hitting the more pertinent diagonal, but allowing black to take here, which is what we see. He shatters the pawn structure, imbalances the position, opens the e4 square, wants to win, has to win to carry his Norway team. His shoulders are hurting, and now we see Castle's queen side. Andrea starts spinning the beats. We love seeing the kings on opposite sides. Rook hd1 challenges the only open file, or one of two open files I should say. We see rook takes on d1. This one recaptures, and now a great move from Fedoseev, showing some understanding. He is a super grandmaster basically, or grandmaster. h4 now on the board. I think we can call him a super GM, especially what he does in Titled Tuesday. He's preparing to do some nastiness there. Magnus carries on skiing down the board. What a guy. And now Fedoseev leans back, puffs out his chest, and he's like, do you even rook lift, bro? Attacks the pawn on f5. Magnus keeps skiing on in, as you do, up the hill. What an incredible skier he is. Rook g5 played, and it leaves the h4 pawn hanging, but goes after g2. Then you're in amongst it, the fox amongst the chickens. So Magnus decides to cover it, as he should, but he does it in such a weird passive way. You know, this looks really natural. Cementing this one, of course. Naturally, black's going to want to take en croissant, bellow it in his best French accent. Magnus can then recapture here with this one, and you go in g4 soon and everything like that. Looks so harmonious. Why wouldn't you do this? I don't know. Something spooked Magnus. Instead, he goes rook g1, and look at Hikaru's face. This is not a pretty move when you're a serious grandmaster player and you want active pieces. g6 now finally played. Magnus takes on h4. Hits the rook, so Fedoseev flicks in that swish and sook, and now surely you drop back with the king. Don't wander too far into the enemy territory, no. Magnus keeps going, even making his way uphill. Incredible journey. Rook g6 now played, coming away from the attack of the bishop, and it just gets better. Magnus makes his way all the way into e6. What an incredible square. All he needs at this stage is one of those ski guns to delete that enemy monarch on c8, but he doesn't have one. Instead, he has to respond to sniper to c5, hitting his own rook, which is defending the pawn. So Magnus plays one of the ugliest moves known to man, rook h1. Never put rookie in the corner at this stage of the game. Now, why not crash through on g2? Well, then white gets counterplay, taking here. The h-pawn runs really fast, so instead we see check. Magnus with the question now, do you carry on skiing all the way up the board or step back? Well, he goes wrong. He's lower on time than Fedoseev, gets a bit tentative. This is the move that should have been played. You hit this rook, force it to take here, and now the bishop takes here. Now it looks deadly to give black these two running past pawns, but this one gives counterplay. Red carpet rolled out. Look how these escort the pawn down the board, and so black's forced to actually give a bishop for that pawn. Should be roughly level. White a little bit for choice. However, Magnus didn't do it. He instead went king d5, didn't carry on the march forward, the slalom, and now this is where you start running into avalanches. We see the move of f4 from Magnus, trying to get takes to be played. Loosen this knight, maybe b4 comes, you distract the bishop, that kind of thing. So king d7 was played instead, and look at the white monarch, completely in jail, a mating net, c4 the only flight square, and Magnus now goes completely wrong. Very low on time. He should actually take here as his best move. Does have to be a bit careful, you know, if he does this and capture the pawn. Rook g2 comes, knight f3 check is a threat. But okay, this is how he should have gone. Bishop e1 can be played here. Not done. He plays the incredible bad pawn to g4 here, mixing up the position, but he's completely overlooked. An absolutely deadly tactic for Fedoseev. Can you find the move that Stock Barnacle is responding to? Look how it's pooped its pants. Very well done if you found. Knight to c2 here. What a move, because say you play something random, let's just show the threat. Knight e3 is a mate in one. You've taken the flight square on c4 as well as delivering the check on the king. Really, really fantastic checkmate. So you have to respond to this one here. Best is taking on g5. This is how the line goes. Then the rook activates. And even if you try and munch a pawn here, the knight still starts checking. In fact, this is a mate. What was the way to go? King takes. You don't get mated. Yes, you do get mated. Forget all my lines here. But there's some lines. Whoops, wrong one. There's some lines where you don't get mated. You can do it from either square with the knight here. But you do still pick up a ton of material and emerge better as black. But none of it on the board. F takes on g4, played instead, and look what happens. Brings it back to an equilibrium. Magnus can now take on e5, breathing a sigh of relief. Now you can't take the pawn on e5, or you wander into that fork town. Knight f3, winning a bishop on h4 over here. So instead we see knight e4 from Magnus. Good move. Knight f3 comes anyway, and Magnus, with a minute or so on the clock, should go bishop g3. Cements everything together, and more importantly, keeps this construction in the center. The knight on e4, very powerful. But he missteps, misevaluates, plays this move of takes with check, pawn recaptures, then bishop g3, but things are different. Fedoseev is invading. Look at Magnus getting absolutely kebabbed. He should push a4 or b4 is the best try. Then after the rook moves and takes one of those pawns, you go rook d1 check, try and activate, but not played. Rook c1 selected. Look at the reaction here of the Silicon Overlord. Magnus wants rook c4, but king e6. Great response. Magnus lifts into the game, but the king's just in time, and this is the big problem. Dominant minor piece, more powerful rook. E-pawn running. Magnus goes active, wants to get his counterplay going, but look at this. His queen side, or king side rather, collapsing. He kind of had to take that knight. The bishop was fairly trapped. Now we see takes here. Rook takes. The pawns start running, but there's a problem. Black has 2. Magnus has 1. He's getting trousered here as they run down the board. King e4. He keeps giving the checks, but these pawns soon about to queen, and the king hiding, scurrying for cover, reaches the b file, no more checks, and Magnus here resigns the position. What to do? You can come back to stop this one, but then this one goes. You can come to stop this one, but then this one goes, etc. These are the problems, right? This one well under lock and key. Magnus Carlsen goes down here with the white pieces. Yes, he was voted the chess goat, but bad day at the office for him. I hope you enjoyed. Apologies, bit tired tonight. My voice isn't all on point, but if you want another game of epic chess, check out the video on screen, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.